Hey there, welcome back to another exciting episode of Karishma Connect and this interesting lineup that we have for April. I'm speaking to Damini Chopra in this particular episode only on UAE's virtual first podcast, which is Karishma Connect. Now, Damini reaches to me from Bombay and she is an actor there who is trying to make a mark of her own. She's done a wide range of projects, which she tells me more about. She also talks me about investing in the social entrepreneur side of her and why it's made her who she is and what is the kind of purpose she seeks and thrives through it. Now, go check out the episode, especially if you're a budding actor who wants some tips on how to sustain in the industry and how to navigate all that it poses every day as a challenge and an opportunity. Until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma. I'll be back yet again. Done. Thank you so much, Damini, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to host you. I can't wait to know more about your journey. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Most welcome. The first question I ask Damini on this podcast is pretty simple, but often very hard to put together, and that is about your journey so far. Dive right in. Tell me what makes it special to be where you are today, but most importantly, how did you get here?
Um, Honestly, I think when I started out, I wasn't looking to, even at the moment, I am not looking to do something special. That's not how I've ever viewed it. For me, it was always that I want to do a bunch of things, some of them completely unconventional, but this is what my heart beats for, and these are the things that I want to do. And the first was getting a good degree. So I went and I did that. I wanted to study abroad, pursued literature. And when I came here, one lesser known fact about me that a lot of people don't know is that I worked in corporate for a year. It was a garment label based out of Canada. And the reason I did that was that I wanted to be sure that this is not something that I want to do, or at least experiment and see if that is the path I want to take. And after a year, I was like, okay, maybe that's not for me. And maybe the path that I'm setting out for, which is the entertainment industry or the social work sector, may be challenging, but definitely that's where I see myself. So that's how I started out. And I think that philosophy of really just going after what I want to do is what I have been doing for all these years.
From Harvard to on screen, how did you navigate leaving behind the conventional route to any career journey?
So, like I told you, I think I always knew these are the things that I want to do. Even in school, I was, somebody who enjoyed studying, but I enjoyed theater, I enjoyed dance equally. I consider myself a fairly social person. So, I always knew I wouldn't be tied down by either this or that. Even now, I do write a lot of opinion pieces for newspapers. I contribute to think tanks, talks. So I don't think I'd ever leave the thought leader side of things. But entertainment's something that calls out to me more so because I think I want to impact lives. Even what I do with my social media or my social work is a lot of community building and impacting lives in a positive way. So that's where the entertainment journey sort of began parallelly.
Before I get into that, though, because I'm going to have a lot of questions to ask you there, I want to touch upon your contribution to rural education and to the social work that you do, and why is it so important to you? Tell me that.
So I think I was very, very young, and I must have been in class 10th or 11th, and I wanted to go abroad to study, and I went and met a lot of career counselors, and everybody told me that if you kind of have a social work profile, it'll make your application a little more appealing to the people who review it. So to be very honest, that's how that started. I started volunteering, but when I was volunteering, a part of me felt so fulfilled for a bunch of reasons. I think when you work with people, you realize that there is a lot of stuff that you've gotten just by virtue of maybe no effort on your part, but by virtue of where you are or where you have been placed. And that fills you with a lot of gratitude. Another thing, and a very important thing that I want to put out to everybody is, even if we do a little something, it can make a huge difference to somebody's life. It doesn't even have to be monetary. It could, you don't even know, maybe you'd say a kind word to somebody on the street today, and it could really help her self confidence and go on to change her life. So I started noticing those little changes along the way, and that's how I realized that this is something I see myself doing probably till the end of my days, because I know that little gestures on our part can make huge differences in people's lives. And, that's something I think we all owe to one another as humans. So that's where the social work aspect came in.
How important do you think it is for budding actors to actually invest in a proper workshop or like to go out there and look for workshops? How did you navigate that while starting out?
So when I started out, I would like to believe that I did not know all of this and I lost out on a lot of precious time, because I think we are made to believe, or let me put it this way, there is very little respect for acting. Everybody feels, oh, somebody's just going to write down a bunch of lines and you have to go and say them on camera. That's really now not how it works. It's a proper art, it's an art, it's a science. There's a lot of technicality in the way you're supposed to emote on camera versus what you do in theater, how you're supposed to approach different characters, different formats, different directors, different platforms. And I think anybody who's not investing time in learning that is really, really going to end up wasting a lot of years of their career, unless some lucky strike happens. Because I do feel that now it's extremely competitive. You have talent from all over the world. The way you and me are talking, sitting in different continents, people can audition. So now the pool is really, really vast. If you're not prepared, somebody else who's prepared is going to come and literally get the opportunity that you were vying for. You know how they say, the best prepared one always wins from the best one. So the one who's most prepared will end up sizing the opportunity. Another thing I want to say to budding actors is, no matter how prepared you are, you often underestimate nerves. Okay, somehow just before an audition, and this happens to the most seasoned actors, the most talented actors, you get very, very nervous. Okay, because it's like a test, right? And this test requires your attention, your physicality, everything. So the more you practice via theater, acting workshops, teachers, even the work that you've done on sets, the more prepared you'll be to handle these nerves. Because I think we all think nahi hoga, I'm going to be okay, but when you're there auditioning, it really does hit you. So being prepared is one thing that can really, really help with that.
Tell me, what are the kind of characters you wish to see come out more often that you would like to be part of as well?
I think now that's changing, but till the recent past, we weren't really creating real women, women who are unapologetically themselves. I'm particularly talking about our cinema. The West may be different, but we weren't really, creating women who were ready to, let's say, break stereotypes or be very, very strong. There were some far and few in between, but majority of the characters were your stereotypical women. I kind of tend to gravitate towards women irrespective of where they are placed. It could be a housewife, it could be a cop, it could be anybody, but somebody who's very, very strong, somebody who has a sense of what they want to do. And I'd like to see more of such characters.
How do what should people know before they even enter in the first place? And two, how have you navigated that fine balance of keeping yourself, your values intact while at the same time being flexible enough to do justice to the path that you've chosen?
A, there is no stability of income, right? So you have to kind of prepare yourself to live with that uncertainty. I know it's a myth that we all feel that, oh, when a certain amount comes in, then I'd be okay. But trust me, I've been in that space. Once that certain amount comes in, you kind of feel, I think I need more. But being an actor or being a content creator or anybody who puts their work out for others to judge often feels mentally very, very drained, because sometimes some of the comments or the criticism or the feedback that you receive can be very disparaging. People may not have filters, so you may be rejected for a variety of reasons. I want to point out two very important things here, which I really want to say to anybody who wants to be an actor, content creator, singer, anybody in an unconventional field. You will get a lot of criticism. Okay, some of it will be valid, some of it won't be valid. You cannot dismiss all of it, because that way you'll never grow. If you don't take the correct criticism, you won't know what you need to work on to achieve your goals. But if you get bogged down with every comment, then also you're going to have a very tough time, because there'll be a day where you won't be able to get out of bed. Okay, because people just criticize sometimes, because I guess as humans we find that easy to do. You must know what criticism should you take. Like for me, one good way was that oftentimes when I'd hear comments from a director or a casting director, I used to take the emotion out of it. I'd be like, okay, this is the factual statement. Let me forget what tone was it said in. Let me forget the adjectives, if there were any bad adjectives, and let me just look at the content. So, is this somebody who's commenting on my diction, or somebody who's commenting on my approach? Then I'd be like, okay. So, once I've removed the tone, once I've removed the adjectives which felt hurtful, this is what remains. And is this something that I need to work on? Most of the times the answer would be yes, on just the content of it. B and b and more importantly, or most importantly, you need to have supportive friends and family. Okay, I don't say that they have to be delusional. They cannot tell you that, hey, you need to do nothing, you're absolutely perfect, and you're gonna wake up tomorrow morning and just be Deepika Padukone. But they need to also understand where they need to support you, because there'll be days when you will be rejected for the weirdest of reasons. There'll be months where you will face absolute torment, full rejection, and there will be times when you'll give your best to something and it won't work out, or you'll be edited out in the final cut, and you'll be like, oh, where am I? So you need people who are going to tell you that, listen, you're going to be fine and you're doing all right. So, but again, I'm going to emphasize, they cannot make you delusional. They cannot be the ones telling you, oh, you got to do nothing, but they should be the ones picking you up when you find it difficult to pick up yourself. So these two things I think are very, very important to keep your mental health in check. And I think at some point you have to also understand that now with the internet, it's a double-edged sword. It makes life so much easier for people to kind of get their work out, but it also makes it that much easier for you to get so many comments and criticism that may be extremely hurtful. So you need to learn to kind of not let I let me put it this way. I think saw this in a Rishi Kapoor interview. He said, "You can't let every praise get to your head, and you can't let every criticism get to your heart."
Tell me, how do you view success over the years, and how has your perception of success actually evolved over the years?
Okay, so let me be very honest. When you start out and you start doing a little work and you make friends, you kind of define success in terms of what car are you driving. You define success in terms of what party or screening are you invited at. And I think in the beginning, when you start knowing people and you start working, you get very, very hurt when these targets are not met. Because I have to say this, our industry is a very, very cutthroat place. So you may be best friends with someone, but if you're not doing well career wise, they are not going to invite you to their party. Okay. And you'd be like, oh, wow. I mean, everyone's there. Why am I not called? Or you may go to an awards show, which has personally happened to me, and you're about to walk on the red carpet, and suddenly they'll tell you to just wait for 20 minutes in the heat, sweating your makeup off, because a bigger actress who has bigger hits needs to go on first. So you have to kind of make yourself immune to that. One of the things, yeah, I think one of the things that has changed in my definition of success is that I've been able to realize that Damini Chopra as a person is very different from the brand Damini, right? And I think the brand Damini will be viewed by successes that are visible to the audience, but Damini Chopra as a person doesn't need to get affected by that. I need to be able to separate both the things, and I think to an extent I have been able to. I do also feel that now I am able to also acknowledge personal growth as an achievement. Because the one thing I can promise anybody who's starting out is, when you start out in this kind of field, whether or not you make career strides, you will grow immensely as a person if you're doing this sincerely. There's a lot of self work you do. There are a lot of setbacks you learn to deal with and pull yourself up. There's immense discipline and motivation you learn on the way. There's a lot of skill growth. So I think I've also started factoring that in as a part of my successes, rather than just worrying about the hits or the followers or the remuneration that I'm getting.
Getting to the craft of acting itself, right? What excites you about it, and what are some of the things that you think make make or break a good actor?
I've seen a lot of good actors at work. I think for them, acting comes above everything else, irrespective of whether they are leading stars or whether they've just been doing character roles since decades. I think they're very, very passionate about the craft itself. And I think that is the first and foremost thing that makes you a good actor, being passionate about the craft, not just saying that, okay, I have to deliver what I have to and I hope I get a lot of money and fame for it. I think at some point you have to have a lot of curiosity about people, genuine empathy and genuine curiosity, to really understand why is somebody thinking the way they are thinking, why is somebody reacting the way they are reacting. One good way that I do it is I seek out people with opinions and reactions and behaviors very different from mine. Because, you'd always wonder why they chose to say a particular thing or behave a particular way. And that helps you approach your acting and add some interesting elements to it.
I want to ask you, how do you deal with pressure, especially in your industry?
The beginning, it used to really get to me, sleepless nights, etc. And I think over time, the one approach that I've or this shift that I've had in my approach is that instead of being output focused, I'm more input focused. Okay, like, let me give you an example. I went and gave my best to a certain project, and I really really thought that would completely change my life, etc. But when I saw the final cut, I wasn't there. I'm literally like there in one scene, and I said, wow, I spent 2 years of my life doing this. What happened? And it was terrible. It was heartbreaking. I mean, I can still tell you I couldn't get out of bed for a while, but I did realize that at that point, if I had to sustain in this kind of a career, I'd have to change my approach to more input focused rather than output focused. As in, I'd have to focus a lot more on what are the things that I need to do. Do I need to better my craft? Do I need to reach out to more people? Do I need to do more work or less work or whatever it is that I need to do? And since then, it's been a while. I have very strict lists. These are the things that I must do in a day, irrespective of how I'm feeling. These are the things I must do in a month. These are the goals that I must accomplish in a month from my side, my input. That these are the number of people I need to reach out to, or these are the number of auditions I need to give, or in terms of my social work, these are the number of schools I need to be working with. Beyond that, I don't worry so much about outputs, because now I've realized that there's very little that we can control. There are so many other factors that come into play. So I kind of keep doing what I have to do in terms of input, and I eventually the output falls into place. Sometimes it's quicker, and at other times it takes longer, but it does eventually fall into place.
Is there an output you're particularly proud of from your journey so far? That's my last question to you.
I think I let my audience and my community decide which one I should be most proud of. I particularly feel really happy that I can speak a bunch of languages. It's something I wanted to do since I was very young, and yeah. Apart from that, I'll let the audience decide, and maybe they can comment, so I'll know which one I should be most proud of.
Thank you so much, Damini, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's been a pleasure, and I really like listening to your insights. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me, Karishma. I hope to see you soon.